Hi, welcome back to the Path of Wire Wrapping channel. Today I'm going to teach you, hopefully, how to make this piece here. And to do this, you have to know how to wrap a rectangular stone. This is actually glass. It's not a stone technically, but it's the same principle. So let's get started. Okay, so what you want to do first is you want to have a piece of paper and a pencil, and you put your stone or glass bead or whatever you want down, and then you're going to trace it with a pencil, which I already did, just going around and tracing the sides. And then a good idea is to take a piece of thread or string and just kind of shape that around as best you can and determine the length that you want. I've cut 12 inches because I did this part, plus I estimated an inch and a half for the bail, 0.75 each way. And then I estimated about 2 inches or so additional because this particular one, there is a lot of excess wire that goes around after the bail. That's how you measure that. Once you've done that, the things you're going to need are going to be, like I said, 3 pieces of 12-inch long, 21 gauge. This is sterling silver, but of course, if you're a beginner or relatively beginning, this is something that you probably won't want to use because it's a little bit expensive. So think about getting some craft wire, or if you have a stone of a different color, like green or something, you could easily use copper. The reason I'm using sterling silver is just because this is a blue piece and silver goes better with blue, in my opinion. We're gonna go back to this, and then using a ruler, I say, about 6 inches is the center. You put all 3 of your wires together. And the tools that you will need today are tweezer nose pliers, possibly round nose pliers, flush cutters, wire straighteners to get your wires straight, and flat nose pliers. The flat nose pliers this time are very good for making those sharp turns right where you want to bend your wire. So just use that. Oops, I've got my wires all caught up with the tools. So they've gotten a little wonky, which is another good reason to have your wire straightening device. Get them all nicely lined up. And you probably want to also go ahead to this other corner here. And you're going to bend that up right around the middle. Once you get your wires all nice and together, which they should be, I would bend this up about, it's about 3/4 of an inch. So about to there. The center. Let's see, I'm going to actually mark the center line here because I want to be sure that I'm getting it. It's about there. Okay, sorry. So we don't actually need to do that on the bottom, so I don't know why I just did that. I hope you all have some fun plans for New Year's Eve. I'm probably going to be in bed by 10. Okay, so like right here, and you can use your flat nose, or I mean your tweezer nose too, but the flat nose actually will give you a better, sharper angle, I think. Sorry. Let me just kind of bend that like that. Okay, and then we're going to go down to this side, and sorry, I'm a little bit farther away from the camera than I wanted to be. Okay, so you got that part done. And you'll notice your wires are going to keep trying to escape from each other. So try to keep them all lined up together. And then when you get to this, bend up there. And then we're going to do the same kind of thing. Let me just turn this around. It'll be easier. Making sure your corners are where you want them. Okay, that should be right about there. And it looks a little bit messy right now, but it will hopefully fall in line. Okay, so there you have your, and it's, when it comes to square, rectangular, I should say, wires, it can be better to get your frame shaped first because it's kind of a pain to do it as you go. Wires that I didn't mention yet are, they're all 22 gauge half round, and it's also sterling, of course. And we're going to use 3 pieces that are about 3 inches long. I want to do 10 wraps basically here at the bottom, there, and on the other side. So I'm going to take one of those. So you see that there? And then you just want to get that started. And that's 2. And you know, they'll try to crawl on top of each other as they usually do. Just make sure they're not getting too bad as you go. And 10, and we have just enough wire, so 3 inches for sure to do these 10 wraps. And then once you get that, and just a reminder, when you do your half round, make sure the dull side is on the inside where you're wrapping. This tutorial is really for more advanced beginners, so you should probably already know that. And I am tightening this a little bit, but you don't want it too tight because you want to go back to your frame drawing. And just be sure that your wire wraps are, right about. This might be a little bit large. Let me just double check because I don't want it to be too big. So I might want to adjust. Let's see, that's the center. Just adjust this out a little bit. Maybe bring that up a bit. Because you want to be sure that your frame is going to be fairly snug against your stone. But yeah, so it should look, fairly like that. And when you start attaching, it won't matter if it's just a little bit bigger, but you do want it to be as snug as possible. Let's make sure once more against the stone that it'll be centered. Okay. Check, double check, and I'll measure, remeasure, just like with carpenters. These guys are trying to crawl on top of each other. Okay, then we're going to take another piece and do pretty much the same thing. Okay, sorry, I had a little bit of a malfunction, had to re-straighten my wire. But anyway, I've got 2 wraps on here, and I'm going to speed through this. Okay, once you've got your 10 wraps, if you have a little excess, this one somehow I had a little bit extra, so just cut that off. And then press it down. And, try and get it about centered. And we're going to have to press down on these, make a little bit stay in place a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and do the other one, and then I will come back. Okay, I'm back. I've done all 3. These still keep sliding about, but I'm going to try and press them down now a bit more. And same thing on these sides. Just want to be pressing them down to be sure they're going to stay put. And that looks like, now this might need to be, they're too close together. And if you have a problem like I'm having right here, you can see this one. It kind of got bent. You just want to try to unbend it. And square wire is really, really challenging as far as keeping it from getting all out of shape. And you want to be very careful with it because once you get it out of shape, sometimes it can be hard to get it back where you want it. As you can see, I am, as usual, a cautionary tale. Let's see. Okay. I want to get this kind of nice and I want to make sure you want to make sure too when you do this that all the wires are pressed tightly together at the corner so that they all will straighten up the way you want them. I'm actually just going to straighten them back down this time. So I'm going to do the middle, and I'm going to bend that up, making sure everybody is together where they should be. Okay. So now you can see I've gotten it out of shape more. So these things don't always happen just the way you want them to. And I hope that I've made you see that that is a possibility. So you want to be careful. So one thing you can do to make sure you're getting this as correct as possible is to put some tape on these. Okay, so this side's correct. Now I have to move. Let me just back it out just a little bit. Going to get it down a little bit and try not to get it crisscrossed over. I was a little bit hesitant to do this one because this one I haven't had as much experience with, and I don't want to make a big mess of it, but I think I can get you to where you can figure out how to do this on your own. Okay, so we're going right there. So we want this maybe to come here. Okay, that looks better. Okay, so it's a lot of fiddling around, and it's not easy all the time, and it doesn't look perfect, but it's going to not be noticeable once you put all the other decorational things around it. Decorational, is that a word? I don't think so. Let me just, it's still a little tight. I think I'm just gonna, maybe one more time, I'm gonna straighten you guys out and just back it down a little bit more, because you really want to try to get your wire down to the stone. Okay, so, and this one I could sharpen this up a little bit also. So, okay, how's that looking? I think that's better. And it sort of seems like I'm always trying to decide where I'm going when I'm talking to you. Let's see if I have this stone in. Well, it won't matter. I can always take the stone back out. So we're going to go ahead and try to wrap the bail. So make sure your 6 wires, even though there's only 3, they seem like 6 right here. Make sure that they are lined up. Sorry, I'm getting out of the way here. And then want to do a few wraps toward the stone or the frame, whichever one you want to call it. And then we can take this remaining little bit of wire and just kind of push it up through there. It's easier without the stone, but I'm doing this with the stone. Then bring it out just because that gives you something to get a handle on and make it so your wires have a start. And then you want to kind of take your pliers and kind of make sure your wires are lined up and pull this tightly, which you should be able to do now that you've got it locked in underneath the stone there. So just kind of tighten. You want to have about 3 wraps, and just pull and tighten those wraps up the best you can. Press them down so everything's nice and flat. And we are going to make the second inner wires, the bail. So we want to pull out the front 2. I'm getting new glasses in a couple weeks, so hopefully that's going to help. All right, now I'm going to do the same thing with the 2 back wires. Let's see. So you can actually wiggle this bit to be sure. And this is the wire. Okay. All right, because we don't want to mess up the right wires. We don't want them out of order. So then you take this and try to line these guys up straight, making sure that your dull side is on the inside, and you start making your bail. And I will speed this one up too, because, but just before I do that, I want you to make sure you push these down as you go and make sure that these two wires stay facing whatever way they were facing before you started twisting things, because they do tend to try to move out of position. Okay, got that done. Now I think I'll take the tape off. We are going to, let's see. I'm going to see which, if I want to move my stone at all, or just leave the pattern, because it has a little bit of a pattern. Onto one of the bottom ones, take your fingernail and trying to wiggle away. And you just basically want to take that wire and kind of bend it up and over. Okay, so it looks like that. Now I'm going to do the same thing, hopefully, on the other side. I'm not sure. Okay, I'll move that just a bit. Maybe I moved it too much. Again, I'm going to take with my fingernails. Actually, I'm going to take the stone out because it's wiggling too much. And just again, do the same kind of thing where you kind of turn it up and over. Okay, like that. Then I'm going to put the stone back in, if I can remember the orientation. I think it was like that. Okay, so that would be the front. Now, as you can see, it sticks up, the wire sticks up a little bit. So I'm going to press it down. Oops, that can happen too, which you don't really like. Just kind of press that down. And if it looks a little bit wonky, you can move it over with the wraps a bit. Okay, now we're going to try to lock it in the back. Take your finger or thumbnail, loosen it up, and then try to pull it. And this is going to be harder on the back because it's tighter now. And do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so bring it up and over and press it down so it's tight. And you've got your sides locked in a bit, but you're going to have to probably bring this guy over a little bit more because he's not over very far. And straighten this back up. And I don't know what happened here. This isn't really centered. So move it. And then that one up a little bit more. Okay, so it looks more centered. And what you might also do is press down to make sure this is as flat as it can be against the bottom. Part of this problem is these guys got up kind of high. I think they're about even now. And maybe that one got over. And you can always use a file or a Dremel to get any tool marks out, which you might have. You have to use a little bit more pressure when doing this design because of the way that the wire is trying to go, and it doesn't like what you're doing to it. So, okay, so we've done the bottom ones. Now we have to do the top ones. And that could be a little more challenging because it's going to be a little bit tighter now. Okay, so bring that up and over. And do the same thing on the other side. Up and over. Okay. And you're going to have to straighten it out a bit because it's going to look a little weird. Another reason for using those 12 inches up, because if you do it like this, you're going to use a lot of extra wire there. But I think that looks pretty even. And your wires have gotten out of control while you've been doing all this, at least while I've been doing all this. Okay, so the last one for setting this stone in, and it's pretty well set in now. Believe me, it's tight. Bring these guys, and hopefully not ruin your fingernails like I've ruined mine. Bring those back. Do the same sort of thing. Oh, I hate that sound. Okay. I hate that sound. Might look a little wonkier in the back. And then just kind of press down. So even though my wires starting out are a little bit loose, as you can see, they're hugging the stone pretty well here. Okay. So now, something I didn't tell you that we're going to use in the beginning, I didn't tell you, is we're going to be using some beads. As you can see, this one has beads on it. And now the trick for me is to remember exactly how I did this. I think from the looks of it, the straighten my bail up here too. I think I'll do the bail first, and hopefully you've left yourself just enough space underneath the wires. And I need to make a little bit of space back here because the bail wires are going to go underneath and through. Hopefully you're going to separate the two wires in the back so that there's room. And then you're just going to bend this forward a little bit with your thumb, hopefully, and just kind of give it a nice push through there. And just shape it with your finger. That's all you really have to do. Your thumb, whatever. One of those digits. And make sure it's straight. Then you can bring it around on both sides. And just pull the bail up enough that you've got space under there, because you're going to have to tuck these in. So you're going to cut off to about there. And then take your tweezer nose and you're going to do your very best. I may have to press that bail in a little bit to get that pressed under there and tight. And then do the same thing on the other side. Okay, get these guys out of the way. And tuck it under. And this one, make sure this one's tucked under too. It looks a little loose. Press it. Okay, there you go. Everybody's tucked under. Okay, so I think what I did with these guys was I just basically pulled them really tight on opposite sides. Well, first I think we wrap one side, then the other. Because that was just a design I made one time. So I am not entirely remembering how I did it, but I'm going to take a guess here. Okay, so then I'm going to just cut this off. There. Tuck that under. I didn't leave myself a lot of tucking space. You might want to think about that when you make yours, to leave yourself more room to tuck wires underneath, because you do need that room. And hold on to whatever you've got going on in the front too, making sure it doesn't pull out too much. And you're going to do the same thing on this side. Sorry, my fingers look just horrific. It's winter and my hands tend to get really dry, so Sorry you have to see that. All right, I think that's sort of like it was. And you could stop here if you want and cut the other wires off if you like this. But we're going to do more. So I'm going to wrap this around and then I'm going to snip that off there. So now I'm going to go ahead and tuck this in. And I apologize if there are any volume issues because I've had to re-record because somehow I lost the volume on this particular section. Anyway, so I'm tucking this in and just going to make some micro adjustments, making sure that it looks as even as possible. And it looks pretty good. So I do want to straighten that up. Let's see, what else? I'm going to press these two little loops down a bit. And I think that's pretty much going to do it. Okay. All my little beads have gone flying, but we're going to need these guys. So I'm going to bring them over here. Okay. The one on the back, I'm going to take my thumb and finger and just kind of warm that wire up and kind of get it to give me a nice little curl. The one on the front, I'm going to have to do first. And what we're going to do with that, this is a 4mm silver bead. And I'm going to stick that on there. And I'm going to try this. I hope this works. Try to bring this around into a curve around there. Okay. And then I'm going to add, I've got 3 blue and 1 purple. These are, I did not mention this, these are check seed beads. They're 6.0, I think. Yeah, 6.0 check seed beads, in case you're wondering. And this was a 4mm silver, sterling silver ball. There we go. Now that we've got that, we're going to turn around and try not to have all the beads fall off while we do that. And then we're going to bring this down. And we're going to bring this, let's see if we can't tighten this little one up around the swirl there. Okay, so we'll be bringing that down to about there, and that's going to go. Now hold on to your beads because you don't want them. And I'm going to actually maybe just bend this a little bit more around that to tighten that up a little bit. So it should look something like that. Maybe the bead should be a little bit higher. I don't know. And then I'm going to try to bring that around tightly to the back. And this one will go kind of right next to it to kind of give it a frame of sorts. Slightly higher. Oops. Not underneath. And then bend that over there. And both of these will get tucked in. I'm going to tuck this one in first. So let me cut that off. Hopefully I didn't cut it too short. I gotta pull this other one up or push it up some, get it out of the way. And you want to hold on to your beads as you do this because you don't want your beads all coming around to this side to try to go behind with you. Okay. It's a little bit tough because there's not a lot of room. And that's my fault because I didn't leave enough room. So just want to make sure that it's snug because it looks a little loose. Getting the last one in will really be fun. And then pull it around. And we will be doing the same thing. Or let's see. You know what? I think I did actually pull this around one more time. So it sort of frames the bottom and the front. And it's also just a little more secure. Oh, but see what I did? I did not hold on to this as I took it around. And so it tried to crawl underneath these guys. Okay, so I'm just going to bring that down a little bit and bring you down a little bit. I'm going to have to wire straighten this a bit more. Try not to get it too out of shape, which I have kind of done. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to hold on to that wire as I move it toward the back. Okay, so no attempt at duplication is necessarily going to be perfect. I want this to have a little bit of a swoop, but it seems like I just keep getting it too tight. Okay, so let's try that again with my fingernail on that to try to keep it from moving. And because it's so tight in here, I'm actually going to do something radical. Here, I'm going to take this and I'm going to attach it through here because there's more room. And, you know, sometimes you just have to improvise. And I'm going to kind of snip this off here. And let's see. This I should straighten a bit. So the ideal thing is not to scratch your wires all to heck the first time, but it's very hard sometimes to avoid. And that's why it's good to have filing tools and Dremels and things like that to keep your wire from getting too far out of shape. Okay, I'm actually going to maybe pull this back a little bit and push that down a little bit. But I think we're done. So these are going to move around a little bit. If you don't like that, you can kind of push them up and then find a place here to either bend your wire at a sharp angle down or up. I think in this case, I might bend it up just right there, which will keep them, if you did it right, will keep them from, hopefully from sliding all over the place. Okay, so might have done it a bit too much. Okay, all right, so we have finished that. I'm going to actually I can use these. I'm just going to press my bail up a little bit higher so you can kind of see the bail above the design. And not perfect, but this is another option for you to be able to do, hopefully at least that helped you in figuring out how to do a rectangle. And again, I'm going to have to readjust some of these little things because they're not exactly the way I would have liked, but you know, it's not something I do often with this kind of stone or glass or whatever you call it, but hopefully this is Okay, because perfect is the enemy of good enough. So thanks again for watching. It looks fairly close, considering it's only the second time I've done it. So I really appreciate it. And please leave me comments. Please let me know, what you think about what I'm doing. If I know I still need to work on the camera work. I did get this new TV that I can put in front of me, but my table situation's a little different today. And so it's been a little bit, still a little bit challenging to stay because I tend to go like this, and I'm so sorry. So I hope you saw it all. When I go to edit, I will see just how bad it looks. And I wish you all a very happy 2025, and please like and subscribe. It really would help me out. Thank you very much and have a great one. Bye-bye.